we're going to have that. So people will be able to crowdfund an idea, then build out that idea as a name and build out a whole brand around it, right? Then they can sell that name later. If they want to have your own coin, you'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to launch it in a way that won't be regulated, because if you launch it like you do on all these other chains, then you control the entirety of the coin. Then you have to distribute it out to people. Now that's a problem. Like, that is going to be regulated in the future. I'm very, very sure of that. So people who are doing
that's
that,
why I do my channel.
yeah. So
I teach the law so I can get out of the jurisdiction of the.
Welcome to the Freedom Unchained channel. This is an interview with the founder of Qortal. Qortal is a blockchain-based software, I guess you would call it, working to empower freedom, sovereignty. Of course, that's what this channel is about. So I like to bring on blockchain developers, because that is the future of the world. Even if you like it or not, it's not going anywhere, and you're going to have to use it, or you will be using it and you won't even know it sometimes. But eventually, everybody's gonna have to use blockchain. You're either gonna get enslaved by the government by blockchain, or we can use blockchain to empower our freedom. So Quartal, hopefully, is going to be built to help empower our freedom. So it's gonna be a place where you can host websites, host your website name, URL name, build communities, build chats, and a whole bunch of other things. So check out Quartal if you're more interested into it. And let's get into the conversation I'm gonna have with the founder of Quartal here. And this one's gonna be a little different than most interviews that he's had, because he's trying to help people kind of get to know what Quartal is. But this one, I wanted to dive a little deeper, and I wanted to get him to express what he sees the project being in 5, 10, 15 years, and what aspects it will have that we can use to empower freedom. So let's just get into it.
all right.
Cool. What's going on?
All right. What's up?
Not much.
Sorry about that this morning.
You're all right.
All right.
I just got some work done.
Cool.
Yeah, I started checking out your project a little bit. I just want to pretty much just have a conversation, because
Sure.
I don't know if you check my channel out, but it's just I do common law. So I don't know if you know anything about common law.
Not too much. I've definitely, heard of it, obviously, and a lot of people mention it, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so you're talking about sovereignty, and now my dog wants to get up. Probably wants to go. And that's kind of what I'm like got me interested in cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. Like back in 2016 when I first heard about it, is the just understanding the power of the blockchain. Kind of gives us the power to be sovereign individuals and create a sovereign government kind of thing. So that's kind of just, I want to see what kind of your vision is with the project, and what you see the power that you can hold, it holds, and what you see for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're exactly right. That's exactly what I saw when I first saw blockchain, right? I saw Bitcoin and I was like, wow, this technology is going to run everything in the future. And so, but there was no platform that could actually do everything, right? Like the Bitcoin was focused on being, digital money only. And that's still basically all it is, right? Like you can try to make it do other things, and people have, but since it wasn't built for that, it's really not the best solution for things like that. So what Quartal is basically a culmination of my experience and multiple other very intelligent developers and contributors over a period of about 9 years now, and making a platform that can do everything else. It can do, data storage, communications, web hosting, everything that you need as far as a full digital infrastructure. Of course, it has the economic side too, and that is actually more in line with the original ideals of Satoshi when he created the Bitcoin white paper, because it was meant for every individual person to be able to use a typical computer to mine Bitcoin, right? So that they take out the banks and they take out all the centralization, and everything is done communicating to your own node that then submits transactions to the network. And that is exactly how Quartal works. We have zero centralization. There is no need for even centralization when it comes to trading, right? So we have our own trade platform that does direct cross-chain trades. Right now we have Litecoin and Dogecoin as the two new pairs for the market. We're about to add Raven coin and Digibyte. So Quartal is a lot more than just a single coin. In the future, we're looking to get rid of the need for the internet as well. So we're looking to establish a mesh network, our own cellular communications type networks, our own longer range wireless communications, to establish mesh networks, and then get those to eventually connect to each other, and satellite communications too. But that's a little bit further.
I just wanted to, you cover this a lot in a lot of other interviews, so I wanted to pull you out, put you in like the future, like where you
Sure.
see, because like here's Skycoin right here. This is one of my favorite projects. So I like the idea of a mesh network that is something that will empower our sovereignty and stuff like that. So the way I see the future is everything's gonna have a blockchain, like and its own token. Like you personally might have your own token, or if you're an artist, you'll have a token, or a business. Everything kind of be in its own little governance. You can pick and choose your way you want to do business and grow community. And the power of the tokenizing things can incentivize people to do things. So like, how with your thing can in the future be able to set up that something, you have the website and stuff like that. Are you going to be setting up other like blockchain based applications that will help empower like me to build businesses on top of them?
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
really what my community is all about, is to, in the future, I see the future of building communities, small community, because like everything I want to do, I have like this Freedom Unchained channel, I have a Foundation Freedom, and then every other idea I'm going to put a token behind it. And I kind of want to build like the self governance behind it that will like organically self-govern itself. You know what I mean?
So, okay. So in the immediate future, we are building what's called Q apps. And now Q apps will expand on the functionality of the web hosting that we already have. So we will then be able to do things like stores. So you'll be able to have payment processing with any supported coin that Qortal has. So you can do micropayments in any of those coins for, putting up videos and content, whatever. Or you can sell items, you can sell physical goods, you can sell, digital services, things like that. We'll also be able to replace things like YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. All of that kind of stuff is going to be possible once we have Q apps. What you're talking about with tokenizing everything. Now, I personally am not a huge fan of tokenizing everything, because there have been so many tokens and things like that have been launched that become scams. And so the way that we're going to be doing this on Quartal is going to be a little bit different. There are going to be two different things that we're going to do as far as that goes. So the first one is we're going to have a different way to launch assets that run on the Quartal chain. And one of the first ones that we're planning right now is going to get started in the same fashion. So what we're going to do is, the idea for the new coin or a new token that you want to launch will be presented to the community, right? So you put together a presentation, you present it to the community, then the community votes on whether they want that asset to be part of the Quartal network or not, since Quartal is completely community run and developed. So we want to involve the community a lot in these kinds of decisions. Now, so we will present the idea to the community. If the community says, yes, let's go for it, then we do that in the voting system. Now, the voting system has to have a few changes before we make that live, because there were a few asshats in the beginning who decided that self-sponsoring was the thing that they wanted to do, even though in the long run, they're not actually getting that much more coin, but it does skew the voting system. So we need to make sure that we take care of the self-sponsors and get rid of that problem first. Then we can make the voting system live, which is something that we're planning on doing over the next few releases, hopefully. So we're over the next 5 releases, we're actually planning on putting in the memory proof of work, which will get rid of the ability of people to run a bunch of virtual machines and run nodes, a ton of nodes on the same machine. And then that will get us closer to being able to make the voting system live. But until then, we're going to do basically a loose vote in the Discord and Telegram, like we've been doing for like the change on the name registration fee and stuff like that. So we'll do a loose vote on that. We'll present the idea, the community goes for it, then it can be officially started on development. And the way that we're going to launch tokens like that is, for this one in particular, it's really a unique concept. It's going to be backed by food production. So the way that we're going to launch it is it'll start with a single group on the chain. So we have groups on the chain. I don't think any other blockchain has that. So you can actually create a group on the chain, and that group can have admins. And now we're going to start with one group, and the 60% of the group's admins needs to say, yes, we verified this food production environment. And then a smart contract will get created from that multi-signature transaction. And the smart contract will then generate the actual coin, because they've verified that the food production environment is there. They'll set the numbers based on how big that environment is, how much food it actually produces, and so forth. And then the smart contract gets created, and that gets sent out to the farmer and to the people that are involved with it. And that starts the actual release, so that it's actually backed by the production of food. And so that is how we're going to do the release of assets on Qortal, at least for now. In the longer term future, I would like to see the ability for someone like yourself to launch a sidechain from within Qortal. And that sidechain could then be minted from block 0, just like Qort was. And you could set your own set of founders, and however you wanted to structure it, the release schedule, all of that can be programmed into the chain. And the really cool part about Qortal, well, there's a lot, but one of the cool parts is that the blockchain itself is actually a SQL compatible database. So in the future, we could make it so you launch a side chain, you program it however you want for the release schedule. Then you can actually use that side chain's database as an application database. So an app could actually run on that chain, right? Then if you wanted to update the tables in that database, it could be done by way of a multi-signature multi-signature transaction, just like we do the automatic updates for Qortal right now. So that in the longer term future is what I'd like to see. So people will be able to launch their own side chain and program the release schedule however they want. And then that will allow them to have direct trades with Qort, and potentially in the future, direct trades like we do with Qort to other coins on the trade portal. So, but that's like, probably over a year out. So like, we're not focused right now on having other tokens that are going to be able to be launched unless they're done in a very specific fashion. I just don't want to see a bunch of scams getting launched on the chain, because I've seen that happen so many times in the past with basically any other platform that allows anyone to just launch and create an asset. Then they end up creating an asset, and then they have full control over the asset that they created. Then they are also liable for issues that could happen with regulatory bodies, right? And so we want to make sure that we can both avoid that and avoid a bunch of scams coming on the chain. So, but what you can do though, is you can create a Q app and take micropayments in Qort or in any other supported coin that we have, and build your business model that way. And I really think that that is going to be probably better in the long term. And what you can do with the name is you can have a website, an application, all of the content for it, the Git repo for it, all of that is tied into the name itself and the followers. So then you can take that name, you can build an entire brand on that name, and you can sell that name on the names market. And the names market is coming in the relatively near future. So right now we just have to make a few changes, because right now we're limited to one name per account. We're gonna need to remove that limit and make it so you can have as many names as you want on one account. Then we can build the names market. All the rest of the back end for the names market already exists. We're actually fixing a few little things right now with that, but so that should be possible very soon. And so names could actually be used very similarly to something like an NFT, but it would actually have the data for the NFT and a whole website and an application and all of the followers of it all tied to the same thing, and can be sold on the names market. So it's like an NFT on steroids, and it can do a whole lot more, right? So names, I think, are going to be basically an enhanced version of an NFT, and you can use things like that, plus building your own application to do micropayments and take payments in Qort, so you don't really need your own token. I think a lot of people are like wanting to create their own token, and there's not really a reason for it in a lot of cases. Like, I get that that's how like Ethereum and all the other chains are done, and like that creating your own token is really the only way that you can like do something on those chains. But we're building it in a way that you don't have to have your own token. You can just build your idea out. And we'll also have a crowdfund with a Q, which is a crowdfunding platform that is built off of an AT, which is the Qortal smart contract system. You'll be able to launch a crowdfund with a page explaining what you're seeking funding for, with a maximum goal. Anybody who donates to that it will just collect that fund. Then if they meet the goal, it funds the person who created it. If it doesn't meet the goal, it automatically refunds everybody. And this is all completely decentralized and automated. So we're going to have that. So people will be able to crowdfund an idea, then build out that idea as a name and build out a whole brand around it, right? Then they can sell that name later if they want, or they can just build a small NFT type name and sell that on the names market. So there's a lot of flexibility with just that, with NFT type stuff that can be done on the names market, and it's just, you know, a name instead of an NFT. And since we can have data and everything on it too, it allows for a lot more to take place. Then in the longer term future, if you do still want to have your own coin, you'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to launch it in a way that won't be regulated, because if you launch it like you do on all these other chains, then you control the entirety of the coin. Then you have to distribute it out to people. Now that's a problem. Like, that is going to be regulated in the future. I'm very, very sure of that. So people who are doing
that's
that,
why I do my channel.
yeah. So
I teach the law so I can get out of the jurisdiction of the, you know, there's a lot of constitutional, like privacy. So I teach PMA. So that's kind of like how I want to use this token economics kind of thing, because I think there are ideas or project like Walmart uses blockchain to move goods, so you don't really need a token. You just need to be able to track from point A to point, you know, until it rots, and then you can, if something diseases, you can figure out the path of where it goes. So, but I think with businesses and stuff, it's good to give the token so you can know ownership, and then the voting helps with the voting and the governance. So that's where I get like the self-governance kind of thing, and allows people to be part of a community. So I like the aspect of doing it that way.
So you can do that with groups on Qortal without needing an
Yeah.
actual token. So
Well,
the governance
like
just works a
the
little
token
differently.
allows you to do a lot of, I think, like you can give rewards out for supporting the network and stuff like that. So
Right. Yeah.
you know, that's how I got into it as a governance, is through Dash, kind of how you were explaining the treasury kind of thing. People will put proposals out, and then the community fulfills a proposal. So I like, there's a whole bunch of different ways I think communities can take it, and I like the programmability of this, but with the security of a blockchain. So I was curious just how you see the evolution of where you're going with the project, because you were also talking about, you know, interview, you could fork what you're doing now and just do, you know, and
Yes, you can.
you know.
It's totally open source, so anybody is free to take it and clone it and build something else out of it right now. Like that's already possible. So you don't even, no one needs our permission to be able to clone it and, you know, launch another chain from it. Now, I would suggest waiting a little longer unless you have a really brilliant developer who is going to do the stuff. So like, if you wait until we get all of the base level features that we want, then, you know, but by then we'll be able to just launch the chain from within Quartal. So like, they won't really be necessary to clone the whole code base. But I think that people, you just need to like maybe look at the things a little differently. Like, you could just have it all done with the existing supported coins as far as payments go, and the governance can be done by way of groups on the chain and multi-signature transactions by those groups, right? So it's really like decoupling the token and the governance, like, because I think it's a cool idea kind of, but I think that it's going to run into a lot of issues in the future, like with the way that they're doing all these tokens now.
What do you mean by that? Which kind of issues?
I just think that I mean, the government's going to come down on a lot of this stuff because of the way that it has to be centralized. I'm not either, but I know it's going to happen. Like, and I don't want to be part.
Well, they're going to come. They're going to come down. That's why I teach the law, so you can go through court and get out of the jurisdiction of the government. There's like, if you just understand law properly, there's a lot of ways to keep the government out of things. So I don't want to worry about the government at all, because I know the power of blockchain I believe will take the position of the government in the long term.
Yeah, in the long term, totally.
Without force, and it's because of the, you know, the micro communities of the communities we can build with blockchains. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I want to support and build. So like, what I want to build in the future is, I got my main brand, which is Foundation Freedom, and then underneath I can, like, you know, if I can somehow create a simple program where people can just pick and choose, like kind of how you're saying, change the governance, pick and choose the governance, how they want to, and just fork fork a chain however they, they see a business being done like they wanted, they could fork that governance and then start their own kind of thing.
Right.
And then the token helps you with because that's like creating real money. You're like, instead of going out and getting debt, you can just take your future community's hard work and stuff like that and turn it into an asset, which you can then
I
have
just don't like the
your
way
own
that they're launched,
store.
because it means that when you launch them that way, they have one person that controls it all at the beginning.
Yeah.
And that's nonsense. That's why when we do it, we want to launch it in a way that it launches from zero, and you can decide how it gets distributed out. And I think it's a lot better, right? Like just the way that Qortal was launched too.
Well,
like,
that's why I don't have the programmable experience to build something like that. So that's why I'm hoping people catch on to that idea that you just implemented. Is it has to start from zero, and it's like it can't be run by a human being, because then the government actually can go to that human being and be like, here's we're going to take you to court, and then you have to learn the law and go to court and fight them,
right?
Which is possible, but most people, I say 99% of people have been indoctrinated to learn that the wrong idea of law. So we're in a predicament here that they just obey everything the government. So that's how they're going to get control of cryptos through people's minds, and saying that you have to do this, you have to file for taxes, you have to get KYC, and we're going to come after you. And then they're like, oh, we're scared. And then they,
exactly. But Qortal was built to be able to avoid all of that. There's literally no one entity that they can go after. There's literally nobody in between any of the trades. There's nobody in between on anything, right? So there's nothing they can do, really. And so and I want to keep that same philosophy going. So that's why we have an asset system now. We could allow people to just issue assets and control the entirety of them at the beginning, but I really have seen that come into way too many scams. And when we do it, we want to make sure we do it the right way.
Launch the token and it has no fundamentals behind it, then they're pretty much just marketing a token and then pumping up these future. So
people are using it as a way to raise funds, and that's not how you raise funds. So it's that's what I don't want to see on the Quartal chain. So we just need to make sure we do it in a way that makes sense. And I like the idea of the smart contract that actually generates the coin, the token, so that you actually can back it by something. So then once that something has been verified by the group, then it gets created, right? And so that is the way that we're going to do probably the first non-court asset on the chain that we're talking about doing now. I'm going to be presenting that idea to the community here pretty soon with the group of people that we're talking about that with. And it'll add another layer of the overall infrastructure that Quartal needs, which would be decentralized food production and distribution. So that is going to be pretty cool, I think. So, but yeah, we just need to make sure that we do everything the right way. And so that's why we built Quartal from scratch, and we didn't clone anything else, because there was really nothing else that could do it all and could do it all the way that we wanted it to be done. And so, but yeah, we will be able to do things like that in the future. I just
so what is this food production thing you're talking about?
Yeah, I haven't communicated that directly to the community yet, so I'm not talking about it all that much. But I will be presenting it to the community here really soon. It's basically an idea for decentralized food production and distribution, starting with existing food production environments that people have already set up. A lot of them are going to be food forests, and they're basically people who have set up grow operations in their backyard or in some plot of land that they have, and then they're already producing food. It'll start with those. Then new people can jump in and say, I want to do this too, and make their food production environment. And then once they start producing food, they get, that smart contract too that generates the coin for them. And so then that creates an economy of itself. And then you will actually be able to use that coin to get discounts on food directly from farmers and so forth. And the distribution part of it is called farmer drop. And that will be able to get food directly from farmers and so forth. We're still, I am going to present the idea to the community soon, so we'll be able to show all the details and so forth.
Well, it's one of my many ideas. So my brother's homesteader, so it's I'm always, everything's about
a lot of people are interested
on a blockchain and make it better.
Yep, that's definitely going to be happening. I'm pretty sure. And these guys bring a lot of talent with them and a large community with them too. So it's going to make a pretty large impact on Quartal too. So I'm pretty happy with that one. We'll be presenting that here pretty soon. So, but yeah, Quartal overall is literally meant to be the infrastructure of the future. It's literally meant to, you can have one account that has a profile, right? that profile then follows you throughout whatever application you access. You don't need multiple username, password combinations anymore. It's all just one underlying infrastructure that authenticates everything, right? And so that plus the ability to host apps and websites without any fear of hacking or any need of servers or any need of any of the centralized shit, domains, or any of that. Like, it's so much better. And then once somebody has access to the site one time or the app one time, then it's instant from that point on, because once it's downloaded, it's local to your system. The only time it changes is if a file changed and you have to download that one file. And that'll also be with the Git repos that we'll be able to put on there. So that for obviously the first repo we'll do is ours. So we'll have our code repo that's completely separate from all centralized things too. It's literally meant to be like the full infrastructure for everything.
Yeah, this is kind of how I envisioned it, especially when I started learning, being part of the SkyCoin community. Is now I lost my train of thought. Where you just start. Oh yeah, so everything, it's like you have your own blockchain, and you kind of just put all your videos, your blogs, your pictures, everything that you collect throughout, and instead of like Twitter hosting your stuff and Facebook hosting your stuff, you just host everything on there. And then websites like Twitter would come in and pull off your, information that you give permissions to them to access. And then that would go, and they'd be like, okay, this is, my curation of this certain thing. So instead of, that's how I see like what you're saying, and how Synth in SkyCoin, how other people are kind of building the crypto world out is I see everybody's gonna have their centralized blockchain. That kind of be your identity, the internet, probably be your identity in real life as well.
Yeah. Yep. And what the main difference between Quartal and the way that we do our data and most other people is that we don't actually put the data itself on the blockchain. We hash all of the data, then get a list of hashes, then we hash the list of hashes and put one single hash file on the chain, so it doesn't bloat the chain, right? And then not every person has to have a copy of every bit of data, right? So it doesn't make sense in that fashion. That's
torrent. You have it torrented out, right? Too, like
it's our own network. It's not like a torrent.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually use torrents, but So when you have each file, right, it gets encrypted and chunked, then it gets distributed that way. So then the people who have it, the other peers are aware of the people who have it, and they grab it from them, right? So it works like a torrent, but all the data is encrypted and chunked. So you only get to see the data if you actually click to view it. So other than that, it's just nonsense, right?
All right. So in the future, you're gonna have things like storage or SIA, where you're paying for bigger storage spaces so people can run.
So that's private data. So right now we have only public data, and you can use the public data system for private data if you just encrypt the data first, right? But we're planning on adding private data very near future. And we were initially going to do it with a data market, but we decided that we'll do it first without the data market. So people would just voluntarily appear for other people's private data. So like it would work well for like if a company had some data that they wanted to secure in that fashion, then they could just have their own nodes in the company securing that data and have multiple copies of it, right? But in the future, we're planning on doing the data market. So you'll be able to, as a person hosting private data, say, I want, this peer to be redundant copies of this data for me, and then you'll pay them whatever the rate is on the market for them to host redundant copies of your data for you, right? So that's what we're going to get to in the future. It won't be like the way that SIA and them do it, where they reward. I think they reward based off of I forget if they reward based off of the block reward or not, but it won't come from the block reward. It'll come from the person wishing to have that data stored. So it'll be, you as the data node, you'll say this much space is worth this much to me, right? And then the person can say, okay, I'd like to, pay you that much for that, and it'll be over a period of time, probably controlled with a smart contract that'll automatically pay at whatever interval we set for however long of a period of time in blocks.
So could you do, what if I didn't want to host my own data? I just wanted to do like cloud storage, or you just set something up in that fashion?
Yeah, like, I mean, it would work, but you'd have to do it like where you store it for enough time so that they can grab it, then you can delete it. But we'd have to make sure that when you deleted it, it didn't delete from the others as well, because if you're, that's like a different type of delete, right? So if you deleted it locally from your node and then told the chain not to delete it, right? Because if you, as the name owner, deleted it, then and published that deletion,
I guess there would be like a virtual node then, right? So you set up, you guys have something like, I could set up a virtual node on somebody else's, because you were talking about earlier, bigger people having bigger servers and putting, what are they called?
Virtual machines.
A whole bunch of them on there. That's how they were getting more votes. Is that what you were talking about?
No, they were self-sponsoring is the main problem. So they were taking, once they get to level 5, and the problem is like it allowed the people from the core community to come over to Qortal, and a couple of those people who were given level 5 accounts to start with, so we had more people that could sponsor at the beginning. A couple of those people decided to be assholes and self-sponsor before we had means to combat self-sponsorship. So there's only a handful of them that are doing it, but it still needs to be addressed before the voting system can be legitimate. But they can only sponsor 5 at any given time, so it takes a long time for them to get any number of accounts. And honestly, they're like not even getting much more for doing this because of the way that it's all shared and it's based on percentages. There's like, they're not even really getting that much more. It makes more sense to have just a handful of accounts than it would to have like hundreds of them, but they don't seem to get it. But but anyways, so we need to just handle that first. So the only thing that's a real problem is the self-sponsorship. So if someone's taking and sponsoring an account that they own, right, that's the only game that can really be played.
All right. Well, we only have about 5 minutes here. My Zoom decided to start.
I have another. I have another meeting to jump into in 5 minutes or like 10 minutes anyway. So
okay, that's cool. So
I can talk to you again any other time. Just let me know.
We'll set up another time. I need to get more into it. I'm still trying to figure out how to mine.
Mint.
Mint, sorry.
I can sponsor you to do that. All I need is your public key.
Oh, okay.
So the minter, to become a minter, you have to get a sponsorship from another minter who's level 5 or higher, or a founder, right? And so that's just a way to limit minting account creation. I don't get anything for sponsoring you other than the joy of adding a new minter into the system, right? So so you just need to give me your public key. You can find that in the settings toggle on the top right. Send that over to me and I'll send you back the sponsorship key. You apply that to your node. For 7,200 blocks, you get no reward. And then once you reach level 1, after those 7,200 blocks, you create and assign your own minting key. And then you start getting rewarded and continue leveling up. So it's just like a way to prove yourself before you actually become a minter, right?
All right. So when you get the mesh network built, is there fees for going between nodes? Like, so SkyCoin has coin hours. I guess that was going to be their payment for, as they go out between neighbors and stuff like that. That's
like charging for connection.
No, just moving data, I believe.
Yeah, no, we don't have any plans on charging for anything like that. Like we would allow basically anyone to connect directly to the other nodes with no any sort of fee or anything involved with that, because the mesh network would not be like the internet where there would be like data fees and stuff like that, right? So there would be no need for that. As long as you're running a Qortal node, you can authenticate with the mesh network. I think that's kind of more the goal than trying to charge for other stuff like that. I don't think it makes sense to have people like
for nodes that have more traffic coming through them.
I mean, if they're a gateway node and they're providing a gateway to the internet, then potentially I guess that could make sense. But otherwise, why though? Because if you're establishing your own mesh network, then you're not paying for any sort of data traffic or anything. So what's the point in giving people a fee?
I think it's more for helping to fund probably the hardware, the building of the network. Is if you have a node running, then it kind of gives you a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's what minting is for, right? All you have to do is run a node. You run a node and you get rewarded for it, right? Like that's the whole idea behind minting. So we don't, you don't need to need to have another reward system for running a node because we already have one. It's separated from like mining where you have to have separate stuff to mine. Ours is you literally just run your full node and you have a minting key assigned and you get rewarded for it. So it's like we've combined those things. So mining is not a separate thing. It's just running your node, you get rewarded for running, right? Yeah.
SkyCoin is just I think they just minted or whatever all their tokens, and then if you hold their token in the wallet, you get coin hours, and the coin hours are supposed to be the fuel for the internet. So
right, I really don't like that model. But Yeah.
You got to pick a model somewhere. So yours is
Yeah.
you run a node, you get minting rewards, and then that. So
Right.
that's
And those coins are actually being generated just like they
yeah.
would be if they were being mined. So we started at block 0 with 0 coins and the minters minted it from there. Right. And so now we have 3.9 million. There is no overall cap on Court because in the future, we're looking to make most things feeless. Like the trading fees are going to have no trading fees because there's going to be no transaction fee on the Court side. You'll only be paying the transaction fee on the other chains involved. And we want to make typical transactions like sending coin. We want to make that feeless as well. We've already made publishing data feeless. So once you have your registered name, publishing data is completely free. And so we're going to continue with that feeless model. So we always need to have new coin being created to reward the minters. So, but we have a very slow release schedule. It started at 5 coins. Every 6 months, it goes down by 0.25 until it reaches 2. At that point, a vote takes over and the community can decide whether it goes up or down by up to 1 in 0.25 increments until you can either get a maximum of 5 or a minimum of 1. So the community takes over deciding what the block reward is after that. So that's also kind of unique too. But yeah, we wanted to make sure that we launched with no ICO, no pre-mine, no bullshit, right? So I don't like any models that do that. And so like it sounds like Skycoin kind of did that. They like pre-minted all the coins or something, and then now they're doing some sort of staking model or something. I don't know. I think that's how the Quora project, the project that I took over the development of with the team back in 2016, that's how they were done, and I hated it. like no, that's kind of a scam. Like I mean, I get why they did it, but because they were fully proof of stake, so they had to have coins to power the chain. So it made sense, and since they were a legit project with like really cool technology, I was like, okay, whatever, it's whatever. But like I still find basically I think all of ICOs and stuff are scams. I just don't like the way that
Well, you got to do what you got to do. I'm not a programmer, so I can't launch blockchain from zero. I wish I could.
Well, you will be able to in the future with Qortal. Like that's one of the goals in the long-term future for sure.
I've been waiting long enough to do what I want to do. So I just launched on Waze token. I just launched kind of just a community token kind of thing. I think I'm just going to use it for rewards, and like if you sign up for a course or that kind of stuff. I think I'm going to start building a right now. That's what I was working on before you contacted me, was my a mastermind where people can connect.
It is an entire decentralized ecosystem. And so right now we launched with the support with QChat, and that is a text-based instant messaging system that uses right now unconfirmed transactions. One of the main focuses that we're working on right now is to actually make that not use unconfirmed transactions anymore. So it'll be faster, it'll use a protocol, and it'll also be able to store messages as long as you like. So on each node, you'll get to choose how long you want to store each message that takes place on QChat. And then we have light nodes coming up in the near future, which will allow mobile support. So we will not have to synchronize the chain on a phone. You'll just use connected full nodes to get the blockchain data and submit transactions that way. So we already have that being built. That's actually going live in the next version, or at least the base functionality for light nodes going live in the next version. So the main focus for us right now is to make it so that we don't need Telegram or Discord or any other centralized communications platform, and QChat will be able to take over all of that. And so basically Quartal is an infrastructure platform. It's literally built to be a replacement for everything that exists on the internet and monetary systems and all of it in one platform that's straightforward, easy to use, and allows complete individual sovereignty. That means you're communicating only to your own node, and that's on your own computer. Your UI is completely separated from the internet. So the core communicates to the internet and synchronizes the chain, submits transactions, so forth. The UI is a separate application. It has its own encryption engine, and it does all the signing of transactions. So your information for your account stays only in the UI, then only signed transactions are submitted to the core. So there's no potential way that anyone can get into the UI from the internet because it's completely separate from the internet and you're only communicating to your own computer. So it's a much more secure system, and it allows for right now all the communications on QChat. which is instant messaging. We're going to have chain messaging in the future, which will replace things like emails. You'll be able to send an email like message with, files attached that get stored on QDN, which is Quartal Data Network. We have web hosting already. So right now you can register a name on the Quartal chain, and you own that name indefinitely. You don't need to continually pay fees for it like you do with registering domains. There's no need for a server because it stores on your node first. Then when someone else accesses it, it becomes a redundant copy on their node, and so forth. So similar to the torrent network, if you know how the torrent network works, when someone has a copy of the data, they become a seed for that data. Then another person downloads it from them, and then they become a seed for it too. That's exactly how our data network works on the back end. So you, as the first person publishing the data, you become the first peer. Then anyone else who views or follows your data, your website, your name, becomes a peer for your data too. So every person that accesses it gets more redundant, gets stronger, it gets faster because more people, the next people who download it can download it from more people at once, and it gets more anonymous. So it's really, really unique. And also, since we have the minting system, which allows anyone to run even as small as a Raspberry Pi, this is a Cortector that we sell on my company's website. There's no intellectual property. Everything is open source. We'll even give you the 3D printer file if you want to print your own case. But we built these so that if somebody doesn't want to set it up on their own computer or doesn't know how, they can buy one of these. It's just plug and play, and it's got everything set up on it for them. But the entire network can be run on a Raspberry Pi. That's one of the really unique things about it. You don't need like mining machines and filling a whole warehouse with those. There's no money and power. We've broken that tie. So you can't buy influence in the network. The only way that you can get influence is the same way that everybody else is, by becoming a minter and minting, right? And as you mint, you level up, you get more influence, and you get more rewards. So it's a really unique system, and it allows for the entire network to be run on really low powered devices. So you can even plug this into like a small solar panel and run it on that if you want.
So the interview got cut short. My Zoom had a limit. I didn't know that. Hopefully I will get him back on soon and we can have a more in-depth conversation. But like at the end, I was talking about my community. So if you want to get involved with the community that I'm trying to build, where we can all kind of collaborate on ideas and new projects that we want to build to help empower freedom. So it's foundationfreedom.mn.co. It stands for mightynetwork.co. So foundationfreedom.mn.co. Go over there, join, start interacting. Hopefully I'll be able to put more and more stuff on there so people can start learning and get more interactive. And there should be some directions for you to go sign up for waves.exchange and send me your address and I'll send you some foundation tokens. And if you would like to buy even more, purchase and donate to the channel, where I can then exchange more tokens with you if you want to have a bigger piece of the future foundation freedom that we're going to grow. And eventually the token should have value. You should be able to buy courses and get involved, buy merch in the store, and it's going to have some value eventually. But first, we're going to have to get people involved. So go over there, get involved, and that's about it. Like always, I'm going to leave you guys in the love and light of one infinite creator. Peace.